Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Yes, you guessed it, we have yet another Sinn for you guys. This one is the newer 105 UTC in white, and I really like this white dial. I think it's so clean and sharp. There's something about it which really does look it pops. I think really does work. I say, hasn't been out for many years, but already has quite a few fans amongst the Sinn stable. Not only Sinn as well, many other people are starting to enjoy, really enjoying this watch. Now, this watch has come, as you may have guessed, from Ryan and the team over at Francis and Gaye. So I've got to thank you. Yeah, I've got to give them a big thank you because they keep me supplied with Sinn. So it's always a good thing, isn't it? If you're based in the Midlands, pop into the shop, have a coffee, look at some watches. They've got so many. It's just great going in there. There's always something you'll find. Not only new watches, they also sell used watches as well, some of the more luxury brands, so it's worth popping in for that as well. If you can't make it to the shop but you're still in the UK, go on their website and I dare say they'll be able to get you a watch sorted ASAP. So here we go, the UTC. This is quite a cool watch, I think. It really does have that kind of real striking dial with that white and the black indices. I think it really does look the part. The sizes of this watch, we have a case size of, a bezel size, I should say, of 41mm, as the case size is a little bit slimmer at 40mm. The height for this watch, thickness I should say, is actually very impressive. It's only 11.9mm. That makes it the same as the likes of the 104. And when you think this also features the UTC hand, so not only is it the same thickness, but it's actually got another complication in the hand stack, and that is that it features another hand. Normally you'd expect it to be thicker, but it's all down to the movement in this watch, and I really like this movement in this one. Now the lug to lug is the same as the 104. It's 47mm, so very wearable. This one has a 20mm H-link bracelet. Now let's zoom in on that dial. I think the dial is just so fresh and crispy on this one. It really does look great, especially in white. So we have these printed hour and minutes. Now the actual hour markers are in like this black, and you have grey for the minute markers. And it's one of those things you don't always notice at first, but it really highlights the hour markers versus the minute markers because of the darker colour of it. But you don't actually always see it straight away. It's just kind of a bit of a phenomena. Now you have the nice Sinn logo in black against this white dial, and the date down at the 6 o'clock position, which keeps a kind of symmetry to the watch, and I think that looks cool. The UTC is in orange, as too is the UTC hand, and we have right down here, made in Germany. So this watch features a decent amount of lume, both in the hour markers and in these hands, and as to the second hand. Now you may have noticed second hand is in a corresponding grey as to the minute markers. There are all these little subtle details you don't always notice at first when you just glance at the watch. It's the little things that I do like. Now the UTC hand, now when I say UTC, it's basically a GMT hand. So what's it enable you to do? Well, you can actually record 2 different time zones with the use of this hand, but actually a third if you include the 24-hour bezel. So if you know somewhere is 4 hours ahead or 4 hours behind, you can move it the 4 hours and you've got a second time zone. So in theory you can do 3 time zones on this, but I say the UTC hand is actually same as your GMT really. If I unscrew the crown and pop, there you go. Say plenty of thread on that, because it still features 200 meters of water resistancy, which is very impressive. So at the moment, with the crown out in the first position, we have hand winding. Now I prefer the hand wind feel of this movement versus the old one, but we'll get into that in a minute. Now, as I pull it out one more, we now have the date. Let's see, if I turn that counterclockwise, you see the date at the bottom here, advancing, nothing unusual there. But if I turn it clockwise, if you watch the GMT hand, you can actually advance the GMT hand without disturbing the hours. The second hand. So it's, you know, it's a perfectly usable GMT feature. There are others, but this one in this variation works perfectly, no problem. Obviously, if you pull it all the way out, you've got time setting and hacking. So if I screw that back in, so that's all good. As we come out here, we have a subtle domed sapphire crystal with AR coating. Now the bezel action, it's 24-hour bezel, so you get a big jump between. So this isn't a dive bezel with either 120 or 60. So it is a little bit different when you get used to this. You have to get used to it, sorry. So you've got a bit of a dead spot in between, and then it locates perfectly. So as you move it, there's a dead spot. If I keep turning, click, and it's down. So you'll hear it now. And click. So that's one thing to be aware of, because it is only a 24. If you're used to a dive bezel, it will feel a little bit alien. So obviously bi-directional on that. Now, it's black. So if there's a black surface on an outer case of a Sinn watch, this will have tagmented technology. And what I mean by that, this will be hard, very hard. Over in black variation, I think it's around about 1800 Vickers to 2000 plus. Now, that's just numbers, and I appreciate that. But if I had, say, a normal steel watch on. Now, a normal steel watch, 316, I believe, is around about 200 Vickers. If you were to, catch that, it would mark incredibly easily. Now, this will mark, but it needs to have a lot of force to mark it. So this one, Ryan over at Francis Gaye actually ran a silver bezel across a brick wall, and it didn't mark it. In fact, it damaged the brick wall. It marked the brick wall more than it didn't mark the bezel at all. Now, I'm not saying go out and try this, but it just gives you an indication that these are actually very hard, and they can be scratched, but if you were to catch it accidentally, the likelihood is you wouldn't scratch it. But never say never. Anything is possible. So as we come around, should also point out that it does have we can see, I'll have to drop in a picture. We do have a captive bezel system also on this bezel, which makes it harder harder to accidentally knock off a bezel, but easier to remove a bezel with a screwdriver. So something to be aware of. Now we have a classic Sinn case. It's very, in theory, it's just utilitarian. I can't say the word now. Utilitarian. It's just simple, nicely executed case. You can see on the lugs, we always have these angled lugs with Sinn bevel on the edge. This angled bevel, I should say, which is just so stereotype Sinn. Crown guards, screw down crown, signed crown. So it's just a nice, simple way of doing it. It also, as you can see in this, it is bead blasted. Bead blasted doesn't reflect as much, obviously, as polished surfaces, and it gives it more of a tool look. Now, if we come round to the back of this watch, we feature on the back a display case with a quite a well decorated movement in there. Now, this is where things change a little bit versus the normal 104. This has the Sellita SW 330 movement -2. Now, I put this on the time grapher, and as per usual, it came out stellar. I'd say around about, in the position I had it in, about half a second a day. Sinn only use top grade movements. There are 4 grades available. Quite a lot of micro brands will use the entry level in their watches if they say they're powered by Swiss movement. That's on the entry level micro brands. Next one's up, the likes of Oris and Let's see, Doxa. There are others. They use the next one up. Now, that's still a good movement, but then there's a big jump to the next one, which is called top grade. Different shock settings, regulated a lot better and maintains it better, and that is the top grade. Above that is chronometer spec. Now, the big difference between chronometer spec and the top grade is it has actually been sent off and tested, so you get paperwork for it. But every single Sinn watch which I've put on the time grapher, just, you know, the worst I've seen is, I think, +4. That's the worst I've seen on any Sinn. And I say worst, that sounds, remember, there's 86,000 odd seconds in a day. So +4 is actually pretty damn good. And also within chronometer specifications. So, you know, do be aware, if I've had some watches, you come in, you put it on the time grapher and they're running at 16 seconds a day and you think, ooh, that's not quite as good. So top grade movements are used across the board on Sinn watches. Now, I prefer the 300 variation to the 200. I just feel that it's got simply a smoother winding to it. It also has a better power reserve. This has got a 26 joule movement with up to, I think it's around about 56 hours of power versus 38 or 40 of the regular SW200. Not saying the SW200's bad in any way, but I prefer this newer movement myself. So as we come across here, we have the kind of what Sinn is known for already. It's H-link bracelet. It does look cool, and it has these really cool hex-link screws for adjusting it. And yes, when you buy it, you do normally get 2 Allen keys, so you can actually adjust this. Very solid, very kind of, it feels quite chunky bracelet on there. Now the clasp, I haven't took the protective coating off here because it isn't my watch. Now the clasp, I love it or hate it, I think it works perfectly. Solid click, keeper stays down well, and just look, you know, it is lovely and thin, and it works fantastic. Now, I've got some other watches. I think my Breitling Colt, which was a 3,000. I think now it's a £3,000 watch, and that comes the bracelet clasp. Sorry, on that doesn't feel as good as this one. So there you go. It also features, if I pop this, a dive link extension on the back there. Locks in nice and secure. Let me put this on my wrist and see how it looks. Now, if I zoom out, quick wrist check, I'm wearing a Sinn 103 Reverse Panda, which is it's almost vintage, you'd say now, actually, for a Sinn. So that's there. Bob, over in the corner there, he's got the 104 Arabic numerals version on there. And my wrist size, I should point out, is 7¼ inches. And I'm not, obviously it isn't size, but it gives you an idea how it looks. I think that looks a really fresh, cool watch from Sinn there. It just looks a little bit more striking than your regular black dial watches. And it contrasts well against the black bezel, I think, anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. And stay safe out there, guys. Bye.